Okay, I think we're actually on and live, and I'm excited to do this finally. Natalie, Dr. Natalie Candela, you never say that, but it's
No.
true. I'm so
Yes.
excited to have you on here today. So
Thank
this
you.
is the Wellness Toolkit. This is an opportunity for me as a traditional physician and cannabinoid physician to have conversations with people in the holistic space, so that honestly I can ask the questions that I'm curious about, and I hope that you're curious about them as well. And it's also an excuse for me to sit down and talk to my friends when they're too busy to talk to me. So welcome, Natalie. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. Let me just put my headphone on because I
Yeah,
have a
absolutely.
dog and two cats here,
Yes.
and they're making all kinds of noises. So this
Yes,
will
not
limit.
a problem. No, it makes the sound a little bit better. I completely get it.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to finally have this conversation with you. We have met
Yeah.
kind of in the holistic space itself. And during the times that we've met, I've had 100 questions, but never enough time to actually ask all of them. So this is my opportunity. So tell me about you and your background and awakened hypnosis.
Okay. So at the moment, I mean, now what I am is a hypnotherapist and a transformation coach.
Mm-hmm.
And so awakened hypnosis is my practice. I called it awakened hypnosis because I am deeply steeped, I guess, or my work is steeped in spirituality. And I love helping people awaken to their strength, their potential, their spiritual reality. And so I wanted to use hypnosis where you kind of supposedly go to sleep to actually awaken in that process. I
Very
like
good.
play on words.
Yes.
But before I became a hypnotherapist, I walked in a very different path. I spent most of my career in education. I actually,
Mm-hmm.
when I was 7 years old, I had I guess, a knowing sort of that I was a teacher and that I was supposed to be a teacher. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I've been all my life. Not necessarily a teacher in front of a classroom, but in one way or the other, being in the teaching sort of spirit
Mm-hmm.
and in the education field. So I was in education my entire career until about 5 or 6 years ago. I kind of had a very strong intuition again that it was time to change my direction. And so now I believe that I am continuing my teaching mission, but it's a different path, it's a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not that I'm necessarily teaching people how to live, but I'm helping them discover who they are, which in the end, I think what teaching is about.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something really gratifying about that one-on-one, being led into someone's life and being able
Mm-hmm.
to walk that journey with them. And like you said, there is like that teaching aspect to it as well.
Right.
And so you're not just talking about hypnosis, but you're also
Mm-hmm.
talking about your coaching practice as well. So
Yes.
transformational coaching. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, how is that different from, let's say, life coaching or health coaching?
I don't know if I'm not sure. I don't know if it's necessarily very different,
Mm-hmm.
but what I focus on is on the specific transformations that a person wants to create.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you why I started working with coaching as opposed to just being a hypnotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two reasons, and I always explain them to my clients because when I offer it to them as an option. So as a hypnotherapist, I'm obligated to use hypnosis in every session, right? So we meet for an hour, we talk for about half an hour, and then I spend half an hour, with taking them through a hypnotic experience. But my toolkit is much wider than just hypnosis. I've been, learning and absorbing and accumulating new tools throughout my life. And so sometimes I don't believe that one thing can fix everything. You know, I very much believe in a holistic approach, and I believe in using whatever tools are appropriate, you know, for whatever situation. So as a hypnotherapist, I am somewhat limited to just hypnosis. I mean, I also use dream interpretation within hypnotherapy. So there are a couple of things I can do, but I'm still limited to that. If I do coaching, it's kind of my own thing, and I can put whatever tool I find necessary into that experience. So it frees me up to really be more responsive to the needs of the client and approach it from, you know, approach the situation from different angles. And the other really strong benefit of coaching, as opposed to just hypnotherapy, is that when clients come in for hypnotherapy, they come in, you know, basically on a weekly basis, and they come in as many times as they want. And when they don't want, they leave. There is something happens when we approach the moment of real change, of real transformation. Our subconscious mind, which typically operates on our old beliefs, and is sensing that a change is about to occur, and we're about to maybe become different. And subconscious mind wants to protect the status quo, because that's the only way it believes that it'll keep us safe. And the job of our subconscious is to keep us safe. So it begins to sabotage the process. You know, and when the client comes in for hypnotherapy and they approach that moment of shift, they become often very unintentionally, because they don't realize it's happening, they find reasons why they shouldn't continue. Either it is, well, it's too expensive, or it's, well, I don't really have time, or, well, it's COVID, I shouldn't, you know, venture out, even though I'll work online as well. But they find a reason to back out of it, and there's nothing, you know, holding them there, and I don't push anybody into anything. But in coaching, I set a time period. There's a 3-month time within which a person commits to that time, and they will pay for it whether they, you know, choose to back out of it or not. They just make a commitment. But the commitment is more for the client. It's not for me. You know, it holds them in that process. I mean, they can still back out of it, but because they're paying for it, it's more motivation for them to continue, so that they can self-sabotage. So that's what coaching is for. Coaching is really, it doesn't have any particular like curriculum to it. It doesn't have any particular like, this is what I do. It's just a journey where we're in conversation, and when things come up, we respond to them, but I have more tools to address it than just hypnosis.
So do you ever add the hypnosis to your coaching clients, or are they kind of? Oh
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, no. Yeah, it's used at least half of the time, but the other half, like I alternate, but I think it's a richer experience, because in the process, I also teach them things. So that's where my teaching comes in. So I teach them, so when they leave, they have a number of things that they can take with them and continue doing on their own.
Absolutely. And that's one of the other things I love about coaching. Like, as you know, I do life coaching as well. And as opposed to, I feel like therapy, which I love too, and don't, whoever you are, don't take offense to it. But I love with coaching that there is an assignment. There is something you're taking away. And there's that really, it's all about accountability, right? You're going to come back and we're going to work on this together. And for some people, that structure can make a huge, huge difference for them. So, I can appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the things that people are curious about. Like, you kind of started talking about it a little bit. Walk us through your average hypnotic session. Like, so I'm coming in, what is it that I want to get treated for? Like, what is your average patient looking for?
You know, I don't think I have an average client. because they really come in for such a variety of things. And I'll just give you a little bit of an idea so you can see how different they are. Sure. I had, so I have actually, I do have a lot of people that come in for anxiety, stress, sort of experiences. They might have been diagnosed with PTSD. I don't treat it, I don't treat any condition, but they have the experiences that linger on, fears, phobias. So those are kind of generic things. But I had clients. One woman came in, she was going to go on a vacation with her husband, and they wanted to go snorkeling, and she had fear of snorkeling. I can't remember if something happened before, how she developed it, but she was afraid to do it, but she really wanted to do it. So she came in just to prepare, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like there's not, her life was perfectly fine. She just wanted to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
I had a gentleman in probably close to his 80s who lost something. He fell asleep, and when he woke up, he was watching a movie or something. When he woke up, he couldn't find the DVD. And he thought, and he couldn't account for what happened. He thought maybe somebody stole it, or there was some menace or something. He couldn't account for the time lapse and for where the object was. And for the first time in his life, he decided to be hypnotized to recover the time, the memory, and to recover the memory of what happened to the DVD. He wanted to know if he had put it somewhere, because he had no recollection of that. And so he came in, we figured it out. And
how did you figure it out? Okay, go there, right? How did you figure this out? What happens?
So with the lost object specifically, what I do is I take the person, I first kind of talk to them about what they do remember. So I talked to him about what he did remember, what was the last thing that he remembered. And then when I took him into hypnosis, I took him to that time, that last memory that he had, that conscious last memory.
Okay.
And from there, I just keep sort of guiding them, okay, and what happens next? And what do you see? And what happens next? What happens next? And then it's just a matter of taking him deep enough to where his conscious mind sort of steps aside and he lets it go and he begins to see. Because when we're first getting into hypnosis and our conscious mind is still participating, it will still keep asking questions. Is this real? I'm just making it up. What am I doing? Am I seeing things? Where is this coming from? So my job as a hypnotherapist, in this case, just a hypnotist, is to keep sort of working with him to keep taking him down, further and further and deeper so that he can let go. And eventually he very clearly saw that what he did, he was the one who did something with the DVD.
Yeah. Okay. So where was the DVD?
It was in a garbage can outside of his house.
He did it too, right?
Yeah, he did it. And it was because he associated it with, I can't remember exactly, but in his mind at that moment, he thought that it was a bad thing. And so he wanted to change his behavior. But the only thing that came to him was, if I get rid of the DVD, then I wouldn't be doing these bad things. I don't know. I know it's confusing, but anyway, it made sense to him at the moment.
Yeah, I'm reading between the lines there, so I get it. So yeah.
It was just a regular DVD. There was nothing naughty about it. But,
no, I'm just saying, yeah.
But he wanted to get rid of it, so he wouldn't. So he would likely change his behavior. But the problem was he was a little bit drunk at the moment. So when he went to bed, he completely forgot what was happening, what had happened. And so that's why when he woke up, he had no idea where the DVD went. But in hypnosis, he saw it. So
the alcohol did not disrupt your ability.
Mm-hmm.
to?
No. Well, our subconscious mind records everything we see, everything. Okay. So whether we are consciously aware of it or not, on a subconscious level, we record everything that's happening around us. Yeah, go ahead.
So do you have, okay, I realize that people are coming to you and they probably have very good intentions. Mm-hmm. Do they fight you? Do they counteract you? Do they, even though they want, I'm assuming, to be hypnotized, are you battling at times?
So there are two levels of battles, although I wouldn't say like I'm really great battles, no. Mm-hmm. But there are two levels of resistance. There is one on a conscious level and there is one on a subconscious level. Mm-hmm. So on a conscious level, usually when resistance comes up, I welcome it because it's a sign that we're close to, the core, the sort of the golden nugget to the change.
Sure.
It's like I said at the beginning, that when your subconscious mind feels that you're close to turning the corner, it gets really worried because it means you're going to stop following the patterns that it is used to producing for you, right? So it begins to sabotage you. So that's where resistance comes in. People start denying that they're experiencing certain things. They start denying that, like if I suggest something to them, well, do you think this is happening? They start saying, no, this is not it. So they're sort of holding themselves back, not because they want to, it's safer. They're afraid to turn that corner.
But you don't call them on the carpet to it. Like you don't say you're standing in your own way, or like we have some comments here about self-sabotage. Like you don't say to them, you're sabotaging yourself. You're on the brink of doing something fantastic and you're getting in the way. You don't say that.
I typically don't, because if the person is denying it, they're not ready to hear. They're obviously not aware enough yet to acknowledge it. So I watch them and I observe where the person is and how ready they are. And my job is to maintain, a working relationship. So if I turn them off completely, they wouldn't want to come back, and that will not help them. So I'm not going to just say, well, you clearly lost it and you clearly don't know what's happening to you, lady. So you'd better snap out of it. That's not going to be therapeutically helpful. So no, I don't like face them off like that. What I will do is when I do take them into hypnosis, I will make suggestions for them to ease up and be more open and more. So I'm sort of softening them on a subconscious level so that they're more open to receiving the fuller picture and they're more open to seeing this. And then, then the other level of resistance is subconsciously when people go into hypnosis and they are resisting that. But that's usually when that happens, it happens at the very beginning. And once I conditioned them, and if they're open to it, they will, they will go with it. They won't resist much. There are very few cases where people resist really seriously, and then it just doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
But those usually happen in other types of sessions, because I also do regressions, like past life regressions and things like that. I've worked with UFO experiencers, like really interesting things there. So if people resist there, it's just not going to happen.
So is past life regression a form of hypnosis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be hypnotherapy. It can just be hypnosis. If a person simply does it for entertainment and they just want to find out, information about their past. However, I always approach past life regression as a therapeutic modality because I believe that many things that we're experiencing now, the patterns were set in the past. And so they are affecting us on a level that we may not be aware of. And so if I do bring up that information, if the person brings up a certain piece of information, then it is therapeutically important for them to know. And so I turn it into whether there is a healing or letting go or clearing that needs to be done, or whether there is connection that they should have like an aha moment. You know, I use my tools to help them benefit from it so that it's not just purely for entertainment, because that really doesn't interest me.
Yeah, that doesn't, absolutely. Yeah. So, okay. And I see the questions that are kind of popping up. And I'm getting there. Just give me a minute. I'll get there in a second. So I get it. So I'm coming in, there's some things I want to work on, right? I am open to hypnosis for the most part, right? There might be some nerves, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit in a minute here. Do I remember everything? Like send me through what that's like to be hypnotized.
Well, so let me start before, because I don't think I answered your question what the session actually looks like. So the first session would be, we just sit and talk for actually about 45 minutes. I want to understand, you know, what the issue is that you're bringing, and a little bit of background. So you tell me as much as you need to tell me. I then do, I explain sort of we call it theory of mind. And it's how mind works and why hypnosis works, and why there is this tug of war between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and why your mind works the way it works. So kind of give that information to you. And then I do a little test that tests your suggestibility. And what that means is I basically find out what is the best way that you accept information. How do you process it? So that, because there are two different ways that we process it, so that when I talk to you in hypnosis, you will much easier just sort of accept what I say, instead of just like saying, what are you saying? Like, it doesn't work for me. So we do all of that. And then I do a little kind of fun way that I put you into hypnosis that will demonstrate to you that you can really be hypnotized.
Sure.
And then we go into the actual hypnosis. So hypnosis, yes, you will remember everything, especially in let me back up. If you go really deeply, then what it feels like when you come out of hypnosis is this, as though you had a dream. You know, when you just wake up and you remember, you know, some people remember their dreams vividly, but as we start moving around and, you know, getting off the bed and going to the bathroom, whatever, it starts dissipating and then disappearing. That's how hypnosis can feel, because you're kind of coming into a different state of awareness. So when you were still in it, you'll remember everything. And as you move out of it, more into conscious outward awareness, it will start dissipating. However, most people pretty much remember a lot of things. Hypnosis is not a sleep state. It's a very relaxed state where your body can feel like it's asleep. Like you don't want to move. It's hard to move. Some people say they can't move at all, but it's not that something is holding them, and it's not like they feel bound and, you know, gagged or anything like that. It's just their body is so relaxed they can't move.
Right. So it's not like they're trapped. Like they shouldn't be.
They're not trapped. Right.
Okay.
But their mind is alert. And so conscious mind is still there. It's still present. My job is to make it as relaxed as possible.
So how often do people come in? And like we were talking, you said more than once a week or once a week?
Once a week is usually,
Okay.
to kind of keep the frequency, the regular frequency.
And then for how long? Like, I know it might depend on what they're trying to treat. And then, of course, if they're having some sort of block and they're kind of pulling away, but your average, I know that it's not fair to say average ever, but or typical for that matter, but how often does someone end up having hypnotherapy?
So there are some things like, let's say, smoking cessation. That's a 2-hour or two session thing for me, and that's it, right? If people come in for something like anxiety, stress, things like that, really depending on how involved things are, I would say it may be a few months that they come in. Typically, research shows that the success, and I have the numbers on my website, I can't remember them right now, but the success of hypnotherapy comes in a much shorter amount of time than traditional cognitive therapy, where you just sit and talk about things. So it's a much more, I believe, it's not that cognitive therapy is not effective, but it's much quicker, sort of, you produce results in sort of changing your behavior or, things like that. But yeah, it can be between, 3 sessions and
to months,
15 sessions. Whatever.
Absolutely. No, I definitely get that. Very good. So if someone wanted to start incorporating hypnosis into their life, like I've been reading here and there about people doing self-hypnosis. Is that like a safe or a real thing?
It is, yeah, and it is safe. I do teach self-hypnosis. I know people who have, I know one of my teachers at my school uses self-hypnosis when he goes for dental procedures that require, numbing and shots and everything. He uses self-hypnosis instead. And so he does not ever
need instead of what?
The shots.
Get out. Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't do that yet. To be honest, I don't, I guess I'm just, old-fashioned girl.
Fair enough.
I don't teach something to that extent, but I know it's totally possible. But I use it to help people change their state, because the state that you're in, part of my philosophy is that I teach people that we can choose what we experience, regardless of the external circumstances, right? So I teach people how to change state. So you can be very stressed and shift your state so you can actually feel focused and calm and relaxed, and you're able to assess the situation and make a choice instead of just reacting to things.
Okay.
So for that, self-hypnosis is very helpful. I actually use it, on a very basic level. I meditate. And so what I do is I use what I do in self-hypnosis is I kind of relax myself very quickly when I start my meditation. So through self-hypnosis, I kind of bring myself into that deeper state very fast, because I follow the self-hypnosis.
Sure. And so obviously you teaching someone how to do that is probably the best way to do it, I would assume. But meditation can be a form possibly of hypnosis if it's deep enough, or is that stretching it?
No, it's the same. You're basically going to a trance. Trance is just a relaxed state. And you shift your focus from the outside, from the external stimuli, from the outside, the conscious awareness, you shift it within. Of course, there's a little bit of a difference between meditation is when you're staying aware and you're sort of perceiving the information that comes to you. And in hypnosis, I direct the suggestions to a person. But when it's self-hypnosis, you can give yourself suggestions because again, you're not asleep, you're just relaxed. So you can like, let me give you an example. If something really stresses me out, the first thing I do is I notice where I feel it in my body. Because we often don't know that it's our body that begins to reflect our emotions. So I notice where I feel it in my body, and then I go into this, I can close my eyes and I begin to give my body instructions, give the suggestions to myself. Like my stomach gets really tight when I get, when I'm afraid, my stomach goes like this. So I tell it to relax and unclench, and I start sending light and energy and whatever, I choose to send at that moment. And so that is, you can call it whatever you want, but it's sort of part of how self-hypnosis would work. So in a way, I put myself into that state and I give myself the suggestions that I need. And my body listens to me. So yeah, it can be very effective.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we get so wrapped up into our world and everything that's going on externally that that type of skill set, right? That tool can be incredibly helpful for dealing just with the world, right? And dealing with life and the ups and downs that happen. And so if more of us kind of utilize that and had that awareness, then I think a lot of us would be in a better place, I suspect, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, imagine a person on a highway who's getting into like road rage or maybe extreme fear. There are a lot of people who are afraid to drive on a highway or something like that. So just to sort of self-monitor and self-regulate, that ability can open up venues for you that you couldn't pursue before. So yeah, it's very powerful.
Absolutely. So I'm going to hit a couple questions here, and then I do want to talk a little bit about some CBD and cannabis and where all that might fit in. So one of the questions here, well, Leah first says that it sounds like this would be incredibly helpful for PTSD. And
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could see that as well. Absolutely. But what if your body doesn't listen? So I think we're talking just based on how this came in when you're doing a little bit more of the self-hypnosis. What if you're trying to get to that place to kind of calm everything down? And what if you're not making that connection? Like,
okay, so this comes up so that's why I love doing coaching, because again, I get into all of that. So one of the parts that I definitely focus on is connecting with our bodies. Because before your body will listen, you have to listen to it. You have to become aware of how it talks to you, how it operates, what are the ways in which it communicates fear, stress, and intuition, like when it actually sends you messages. Do you listen? Do you know even that a message is sent to you? So one of the ways that we work with this is connecting with our body and listening to it. So before I ever get to self-hypnosis, which I always do that at the end, because before we get to it, you have to understand, steps before that. And I certainly wouldn't tell people, well, just figure out how to self-hypnotize yourself, just go do it. So we would have to work a little bit together before I give you the tool to use with yourself.
It sounds like a skill set that needs to be built, right?
Right.
And if you can do the work and get to a certain level with the work that you're doing, you eventually will be able to better utilize doing some of this on your own.
Yeah. And by the time people use that tool, they're able to connect with their body.
Yeah. No, that sounds
because
good. Yeah.
because if they didn't, I would want to explore that with them. I would want to understand
And do the work. I'm always about, you got to do the work. Nothing comes out of nowhere. So I completely agree with you. So kind of going into that space, and maybe you are having a harder time with it. One thing to consider is utilizing CBD with this. Okay. So one of the benefits of CBD is that it brings clarity. It can be calming. It can be relaxing. It can decrease anxiety. It can work with your PTSD. It can calm down your stomach a little bit. Like utilizing CBD to either help you get into that hypnotic state or to just be another tool in trying to find that clarity and that calmness that you're needing to facilitate a better place of, I want to say awareness, but it's almost, is awareness like going in the opposite direction? The CBD would help you get to a better place of clarity and...
No, awareness is the right place because we want your body to be asleep, in hypnosis, we want your body to be very relaxed and out of the way. And your conscious thinking, but see, it's different. Conscious thinking is not all of the awareness you have. We have awareness at multiple levels, and conscious thinking is that thing that analyzes, rationalizes, argues, sort of picks apart, says, what is this? Does it make sense? That's the conscious part.
Yes.
But there is a much deeper awareness. So we want to keep the awareness. We want to just get the conscious mind out of the way.
Got it. Yeah.
No, but sort of piggybacking on what you just said, you and I talked about, and I think I told you before that I love collaboration because I don't think any one tool or any one thing can really fix anything. So in fact, one of the ways in which hypnosis is very helpful is as a backup to other methods. So like in physical recovery, for example, for pain management, right? So if a person is recovering from surgery, for example, probably CBD would help them, relax, calm their nerves and relax. And hypnosis reinforces their body's sort of path to healing. So those two can work very well together, but even as a team, they work as a backup to maybe
and
more
I'm all about
healing.
that, right? That it's not about any one tool. You have to have the whole toolkit to be successful with any sort of life change or wellness, without a doubt. So the other part of this is more of the cannabis piece, right? The THC piece. So when you're talking about getting to that deeper level of relaxation, that alpha wave level that you help a patient achieve through hypnosis, THC also goes to that alpha wave level as well. So it can be that adjunct. It can kind of get you to that place in the easier manner. I'm sure there's some hypnotherapists that prefer to work with or like to work with THC, and I'm sure there's some that prefer not to. And I think it has a lot to do with the patient or the client's experience with THC as well. But they're working a little bit in that same plane, in that you're definitely not asleep, but you're not totally 100% awake. You're kind of in this in between deep relaxation. And I think we're probably talking a little bit more indica than sativa, because sativa can kind of get things going a little bit more. But it allows to mimic some of that same wavelength area that is where you're doing most of your work.
Now, one of the things that as a hypnotherapist that I might help people with is sometimes addiction, and I'll bring it back to what you said. But my concern is when they do take certain substances, that it is not, in my experience, when people do experience any sort of addiction, it's very often for the purpose of escape, because they just don't have other tools to really deal with reality that's around them. So it's not because they're just losers and they don't know how to do any better, but they're really trying very hard to make sense of their life and to survive, and they just don't have other tools. So my concern is to give them the tools like you're talking about, something that is actually helpful to them, that can put them in the state that is healthy for them, but it's not something, that takes, that sort of takes them away from dealing. Right, exactly. So like collaborating with you is great, because then I know that you can help them find the right path.
Absolutely. And I'm a big advocate for addressing cannabis use disorder, that a lot of times in the industry it's all lollipops and rainbows, and cannabis is the best, but if we don't pay attention to the downfall that some people are going through right in front of us, we are not we're really doing a disservice to the entire program, right? And so that balance is really important, to make sure that this is something that's useful and healthy and enjoyable, if that's the route you're going, but not life avoidance, and not really causing more trauma in the long run for someone. You want this to be the incredible benefit that it can actually be. So absolutely.
And my goal is always to empower people in anything that I do. So that, so when they do it in a healthy way, it empowers them. When they do it as an avoidance, it disempowers them.
No, absolutely. Okay, so a couple fun questions, and then I want to make sure people know how to reach you and talk to you and spend more time with you. Okay, so you have been hypnotized. Well, no, I'm asking.
Me?
Ever? Yes.
yes.
Okay, so were you resistant? Were you difficult? Sometimes, doctors are the worst patient. Nurses are the worst patient. Are you the worst patient for hypnosis?
No. Okay, let me shift it from doctor versus not doctor. There are types of people that the way I've been trained, that there are two types, and one is much easier, goes in much easier, but comes out much slower. Like they just get hypnotized like that, and then they're sort of in a la la land. The other type, you have to work a little bit harder to bring them. And we use different language patterns to address them, because they take suggestions differently. So I am the one that's a little bit harder. You have to work on me a little bit more. I am a thinker. I'm constantly analyzing things. So for me to get my brain out of the way is harder. However, the more I do, because meditation is very similar to, hypnosis, the more I do it and the more I've been hypnotized, the easier it is. I'm okay with putting this aside and just sort of relaxing into it. But at the beginning, I was annoyed with myself. I went for a regression, and I was very annoyed with myself because I felt like I was very conscious throughout the whole thing. But in the end, when I listened to the recording, I was like, wow, that was not my conscious mind talking. That definitely was not me. I don't know where that came from. So even for people who think they're not hypnotized, they actually are.
They probably are. Yes, absolutely. And when it comes to, and I'm hoping we all know this, the stage hypnosis is really just an entertainment trick. Like, that is the stuff you see on, I don't know, on the Today Show. They have it about once a year, every 6 months, or the magic show. That is not real, correct?
I think it is real. However, there are people that are trained specifically for stage hypnosis. I'm not interested in it. The reason stage hypnosis works is that I told you there are two types of people. Well, there is a third. there's a third that sort of, no matter what you say to them, they're going to just go for it.
Well, how do they know who that is when they're doing?
There's a certain way that, so what stage hypnotists are trained to do is observe the crowd. And so as they talk, a person that will go for it, like if you say, oh my goodness, I was on the beach yesterday and it was so hot, they will start going like this, you know, because they get hot, right? They respond, like you say something and they respond to it.
Yes.
And so the stage hypnotists, they talk at first and they observe people and they pick out the people that are like, you know, hanging on every word and responding to them. Yeah. And so they call them to the stage, and these are specific people that they have observed that will do whatever you tell them to do. That's not my cup of tea. I don't care about entertaining people. I'm not a good entertainer.
Oh, please.
So I don't make people do crazy stuff because there's
no, I get it. So, first of all, your website's fantastic. We'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that was on your website, one thing that we've talked about actually here and there is, what is the big misconception about hypnosis?
Well, there are several. I guess the biggest, well, two. Can I say two?
Yes, you can say.
So one is that the hypnotist or hypnotherapist is going to control the person, and somehow make them do things that the person doesn't want to do. That is absolutely not true, because, and I tell my clients that, I tell them throughout all of this, you will be in control. If you allow yourself to be relaxed, then you will be relaxed. But the minute that I say something that does not agree with you, that you don't like, you can open your eyes and walk out. You know, you're not going to be asleep. I've actually, I just had a session with someone. We did a regression, and in the regression, there was some traumatic experience that they were going through, and everything was going smoothly, and everything was great, and the person was there. And then there's something traumatic was about to happen, and the person opened his eyes and said, no, I'm not ready to see that. And we stopped the session. Okay. So he was completely in control. He was totally there. He was so totally there that when the time came, he knew it was going to be traumatic.
Yeah. And he wasn't.
And he wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. And
he opened his eyes and we stopped. So that's the first thing. The client is always in control. The second thing is that people come in and say, I don't think I'm hypnotizable. And that's a funny one, because we're all hypnotizable. Now, some of us choose to really resist. And so, yeah, not everybody goes into hypnosis, but it's not because we're not hypnotizable. But we all go through hypnotic, sort of through a trance on a daily basis. So if you ever came home from work, let's say, or from whatever, having a really hard day, and you were just physically tired, and you put your head on the pillow, and you start feeling like you're drifting away, and you're falling asleep. There's the sweet feeling of just, you're falling asleep, but you're still aware of it. You actually think to yourself, I'm falling asleep. If you've ever had that experience, that is the state of hypnosis. Yes. It's when you're aware enough to kind of reflect on what's happening to you, but at the same time, you don't care. You're just floating away.
Like, I do sleep meditations to kind of slow everything down. And there are times where I'm like, oh boy, I'm really about to fall asleep. And then I'm happy, but I don't stop it. I just keep going. So kind of like this self-talk. Okay.
Right.
All right. Very good. So I do want to share some slides. You're fantastic. Okay. Let's find that real quick. See if, I don't know what's up here. There. Oh, yep. There we go. Okay. So the Wellness Toolkit social media series with Dr. Bridget. I am so excited that you did this today. And we are talking to Dr. Natalie Candela from Awakened Hypnosis. naturally transformative. So you, like I said, you have a fantastic website. If you just want to learn and understand and kind of get a sense of what's available out there, definitely go to awakenedhypnosis.com, or you can email Natalie as well at natalie@awakenedhypnosis.com. And you are in Reynoldsburg, correct? Yes, absolutely. So the phone number is there. If you have questions and want to know more. And social media, I don't know if you can get away from it, even if you want to, right? And so tell us what your Facebook, your YouTube, tell us a little bit about what you find there.
So on Facebook, I post, like for people that are not on my mailing list, I write a blog once a month. So I post it there. I also, when I do my regressions, some of them that are really interesting, I actually turn into little videos where I put subtitles, because sometimes the quality of the sound is different when the person is in a trance. They're very quiet. So on my YouTube, I post my sessions so people can go and listen to the samples of them. And on my Facebook, when I put out the new session, I usually announce it there as well. Very nice. Then I post sometimes some other things, but I'm not as crazy busy on Facebook as some people are.
Yes, so. No, absolutely. I get it, absolutely. And you have a deal for people that are listening today. So the Wellness Toolkit, if you're listening today, if you're watching this, you can get 20% off any service when you contact Awakened Hypnosis with Dr. Natalie Candela. So definitely take advantage of that. And of course, I'm Dr. Bridget Williams from Green Harvest Health. My contact information is there. One thing that isn't here is my coaching and speaking site, which I didn't put up, but it's drbridgetmd.com. And so you can learn a little bit more about where I'm going and what I'm doing. But if you want to know more about Green Harvest Health and medical cannabis, definitely go to greenharvest.health. So instead of a .com, it's a .health, or give us a call, or we spend way too much time on Facebook on my end. So whether it's Facebook or Instagram or what have you, definitely check us out. Our main office is in Pickerington, and we have our West Side satellite in Hilliard, and we have a satellite in Cleveland as well. So be happy to hear from you and answer questions and what have you. Whenever we do the Wellness Toolkit, we want you to have tools that you can use. So definitely you can get our CBD products at 35% off, which I think is one of our best deals. And the code is GREEN35. So definitely if you're wanting something that can help you with your clarity and calmness, as well as sleep and anxiety and pain and what have you, look up our Green Harvest Health doctor recommended CBD. And occasionally people don't understand, as a medical physician, I also do medical cannabis cards. So by watching today, mention that you're watching the Wellness Toolkit, and you can get your card if you qualify for at a discounted rate. And if you want to get more in the CBD arena, you can join this Green Harvest Health CBD Partners. We have direct sales, or people selling it at brick and mortars. We have independent sales consultants, affiliates, brand ambassadors. We're doing white labeling now and custom products as well. So definitely reach out at Dr. Bridget at greenharvest.health to find out more and learn how you can get into the cannabis industry through Green Harvest Health CBD. And upcoming events and services. Well. Welcome to COVID. Things have been busy, but first of all, the holidays are coming. So I think it's a fair time to take a break. So I'm not really going to say whether any events that are planned are still going forward, and we want everyone to be safe. That's a very big deal. But look at our Facebook sites because you never know how things might change. But we want to be safe, and doing this is safe, and talking to you is even better, Natalie. I think you definitely answered a lot of my questions and what was going on, the ideas that I had, and I hope this also answers some of the questions that other people have had as well. So thank you very much for doing this. I'm just going to take a look at the questions here, but also I want you to take a look at them as well, because I'm sure there's some that you can answer, but I appreciate everyone that listened in, and we'll see this on here. We can share it to your site as well, Natalie, as well as Dr. Bridget Williams' Facebook site as well. So enjoy your evening. I want to do this again. I probably could talk to you for another hour.
Love to. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thanks again, and have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.